the first Vigor Active live broadcast that we've ever done. So thank you for being a part of it. I can see all you on the screen behind me, but I zoomed my camera in so that you can't see each other up there, which is okay, right? But I can see you, so thank you for being here. This topic is obviously on nutrition, and nutrition has so many different areas, and there's so many different people saying so many different things these days. You know, scientific literature does say one thing, and then you'll hear something else, so sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. Three main points that I'll touch on today. First off is food abundance, and maybe how we're supposed to consume food as, I would just say, humans on the earth. Food toxins, and then different varieties of diets that are out there, and maybe try to identify what's what, and kind of just go from there. So first, let's just talk about food abundance, because I think food abundance is one of the main things that causes us to overeat. What have we done with food? We've actually turned food into a complete social, it's just socially driven. It's, oh, well, hey, we actually eat on schedule. We go out to restaurants. We've made it just an entire lifestyle. Given our genetic background, it is true that food does make us happy, right? Because in the years and the times a long time ago where food was, scarce, when you got to eat, it gave you the feelings of happiness. So now it's everywhere, and it does still do the same thing with our bodies, where it makes us satisfied, happy, this and that, but we overdo it, right? So there are a lot of diets trying to say, hey, eat as much as you want. You can eat as much as you want no matter what. I still want to remind people that, calories in, calories out. I don't like to throw off the scientific literature that's been there for years and years and years, right? We've been saying calories in, calories out. Be cautious of how much you consume for a very long period of time now. I still like that. I do not think we should overeat or eat in abundance or eat excessive amounts of calories per day. If you were going to eat 5,000 calories today, I might then tell you to skip 2 days of eating. That's also been something that was said. Don't ever miss a meal, right? So we could discuss that at the end if you want to talk about that as well. I have a question about that. But playing into that, one of the newest things that we hear about is intermittent fasting, right? Where you actually will miss a few meals, and they're finding that with that, and that means I don't eat a few meals that I'm normally programmed to do. But with that, it seems as if you allow for some cellular recovery in the body, maybe get yourself away from eating so much, let your stomach go back to its normal size, things like that. So we do have that, and food is, like I said, food is everywhere, and we want to be sure that we don't consume a massive amount, right? So where I was leading with that was, if you eat 5,000 calories today, which in the normal American diet is possible, based on what we're seeing, it's okay to actually miss a few meals after that, because it is such a high calorie meal. Right, so that's something that's being researched, and there might be positives behind that. Or you can just decide that you're going to eat a moderate amount of calories per day. I don't think that the prescriptions of 1,200 to 1,600 for a female and 1,600 to 2,000 calories a day for a male, I don't think that was very far off. I think we could still stick to that, and we're gonna be better. But what I was saying about America is that you go down the street and you're going to go to a meal and you're going to consume 3,000 calories, but you also had breakfast and lunch. So then you're at that 5,000 calorie, and then weight just starts to come on, right? So it's an interesting piece, but probably one of the more important pieces, right? So just go back to watching your calories. Not portion sizes, but percentages of nutrients has always been, studied. How much protein do I need? How much carbohydrate do I need? How much fat do I need? Again, from person to person, that varies. But something that I do want to talk about today, and we'll get to that in a moment, is, toxic things that are in the food. And if you are eating healthy sources of food, natural sources of food, your body will not be in as much duress. It'll be able to digest the food that you are eating more appropriately. So that's really what we're after here, is cutting out things that are maybe a little bit unnatural to our body that cause it to, go into this state of disease, actually, because we're finding more that there's disease with that, right? So let's talk first about the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet tells you to restrict carbohydrates down to 50 grams per day, which is going to eliminate all forms of carbohydrate from your liver. Okay. Well, it pretty much just gets carbohydrates out of your liver. This diet tells you do not eat any carbohydrates, right? They're very, very, very little, if that. Now, I want to, this is a diet that we're hearing about a lot. Dr. Oz has people on, he's talking about it, this and that. So what's the thing behind that? Do I feel we should cut out all carbohydrates from the diet? I don't. However, the carbohydrates that we know to be natural forms, like grains and potatoes, sweet potatoes, and rice, things like that, where you can get that from the ground. I don't think that they were meant to be consumed in the portions that we do, right? A potato, before we take it and bake it or microwave it or whatever, it's actually very hard. The potato was probably meant as more of something to gnaw on than it was to consume an entire one in a sitting, right? But we made it to where we could. So that's where the carbohydrates that you're intaking will go above that 50 grams, which keeps you in ketosis. Ketosis may actually be a very natural form for the body to live in, where the carbohydrates are below 50 grams. Now, for general population people, this is normal. Athletes, athletes are a little bit different. They have a lot of energy that they require on the field of play. So that's where carbohydrates are used for them as something different, as a high energy source, right? But carbohydrates for the general population, or for a person working at a desk or just walking back and forth day to day in life, we could probably live with our bodies in ketosis, meaning I don't have a lot of stored carbohydrate in my liver, and I would get by just fine with plenty of energy. Now, carbohydrates as a whole, we'll just kind of slip over into that while talking about the ketogenic diet, because it's a perfect time. The ketogenic diet, where I'm cutting all carbohydrates out. What's the thing with carbohydrates, right? Cutting out carbohydrates from the diet is really good for people that are addicted to eating or are addicted to things like simple sugar, because carbohydrates are typically where companies have hidden simple sugar in order to make people want to eat the product again, okay? This is listed in multiple books, so it's not necessarily my opinion. However, I've been starting to look into the food that I've been eating and see if there is sugar, okay? I'll get to this in a moment, but one of the most important, or the eye-opening things, the biggest eye-opening food that I found the other day was not a carbohydrate. It was a meat. It was chicken. It was Tyson chicken, grilled and pre-packaged and frozen. Now, the chicken was real chicken, you could tell. However, molasses, sucrose, not high fructose corn syrup, but sugar was in there. Why put that in there, right? That's what I like everybody on this viewing this to start doing, is just to look at your food, right? Because why is that sugar there? The thing about it is why is it there? And you can Google this after you get off this sort of webinar right now, and just look why put sugar in everything. It's just because food manufacturers know that sugar is addictive. It's already out there. I'm not telling anybody anything new. but it creates neural pathways that makes you think about it day in, day out. Some people love coffee, but they're putting sugar in their coffee. They don't necessarily love coffee, but they love sugar, right? So going back to the ketogenic diet, why cut carbs out completely? Because you're probably going to eliminate most of the things that have hidden simple sugar in them. People don't necessarily get addicted to potatoes that don't have anything else on them. Like an organic potato, I don't really foresee anybody getting addicted to that. You know, it's not an addictive thing. But when you go to a restaurant and then there's a sweet potato put in front of you and there's butter and sugar, cinnamon sugar on it with marshmallows, you know, I mean, it's not a potato anymore. It's something completely different, and it has turned into an addictive deal. Then people said, I need to cut out potatoes because they're making me gain weight. It's probably not the potato. It's probably other stuff that was on the potato, right? And this kind of goes on and on and on, which also goes back to the fact that eating out is really, really tough, right? Eating out starts the whole cycle all over again. So the rule number one in changing your nutrition habits is preparing meals for yourself, right? Eat, prepare your things, know what you're putting in there. Then you can read food labels when you buy them at the store and prepare things that are healthier. So that's kind of ketogenic and the carbohydrate deal, right? Carbohydrates, maybe they're a little bit of a higher energy compound. Pasta was really put together by other things. So pasta is really not the best source of carbohydrate that you could imagine. My wife has started buying me vegetable pasta, which is then made from just vegetables. So, you know, obviously it does not taste the same as pasta, but if I choose to eat a pasta, I can eat that, right? That's a little bit better for me. So once again, carbohydrates are not terrible for your body, but the simple sugar form, I would definitely try to cut those out. And I will name some sources that I like. Dee McCaffrey wrote the book, The Science of Skinny. And if you want to write that down and get it and read it, please do. It's a very easy read. She's a chemist, but she speaks to you in, you know, normal person language, which is nice. But she identifies a lot of that kind of stuff as well. But she's more so saying, let's cut out processed foods. Let's cut out, you know, all the high fructose corn syrup, the white bleached sugar, because there is a difference in that, which we'll talk about in a moment. So yeah, you know, your diet and what percentage of nutrients you choose what is best for you. But, you know, it's these other things that I'm about to go over now that we need to work on cutting out, right? So I said sugar, and you have two forms of sugar and flour that will be found in foods that are incredibly harmful and toxic to your body. And that's going to be white sugar and white flour. They are white, as Dee would say in her book, because they have been bleached, right? There's some form of bleach on them, which is what gives them the white color. And now if you look at some sources, you'll see that it says non-bleached flour on there. And so I guess some people are trying to identify that, hey, let's get a version of this that's not bleached. But any time that you eat or consume bleach, it's going to put all the cells in your body under some form of stress. Okay, so you'll just, it essentially on the inside, it starts to make them bleed a little bit, right? So all the cells on the inside of your body where your cardiovascular system contacts, which is everywhere, they start bleeding. And then you have to consume excess water and things, and then you'll notice that your body starts to become inflamed. This is what you might have heard of as an inflammatory diet. And when people say go on an anti-inflammatory diet, they mean let's cut out those things so that you can get all the inflammation out of your body. Sometimes people eat so much of that when you get them off it, they lose about 15 pounds very quickly because you're hanging on to extra water trying to heal your body all the time. a little lead into that with disease, if your body is busy trying to heal all the cells all the time, then it can't fight off diseases like cancer and other things like that. We know that, and going back to the ketogenic diet, we know that a lot of doctors treating cancer patients are starting to use the ketogenic diet as a solution, because it gets the acidity and the inflammation out of your body. So once again, your cells can operate in a normal healing environment, right? So what is it? Bleached sugar, bleached flour, high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup, which is just made in high quantities, comes along with a good amount of mercury, right? So you end up getting mercury poisoning if you eat too much high fructose corn syrup, not to mention the other things that happen, which make your body more prone to storing body fat, right? So, and everything that we're talking about really goes back to body pH, right? The acidity inside your body. What we're trying to do by eating more natural foods, cutting out these processed things, cutting out all the simple sugars, is allow our body to be inside an optimal pH balance, right? And in the body's optimal pH balance, it can heal itself at a rate unlike any other. I'll speak to a personal experience, right? And my parents are on this right now, so they know this, and I don't know if I've talked to them about this. Some of the earliest memories I have from this thing are when I was in 6th grade. I was playing football, and I had to wear a mouthpiece. And my dad will tell you, I would get canker sores in my mouth. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but little white, little sores. As I got older, they'd start to come in numbers like 10, 12, incredibly painful, right? But, you just kind of suck it up, right? But I remember when I was a kid, I'd have them while I was playing football, and I'd put my mouthpiece in, and they would always be touching them, and it would hurt, and I'd get them my whole life. So when I started learning all this stuff, right, about harmful toxins in food and this and that, and I switched my diet up, cut out anything that may have a bleached anything. Canola oil is another one that could cause problems in your body. We could talk about that in a minute too. When it was about 2 years back when my wife and I made this big change, I haven't had a canker sore in my mouth since. I don't know if I've told my parents that since that day, because something in that, probably the bleach, would just eat it away at the inside of my mouth. And this is why also people have to get their teeth, I don't know, veneers. I don't know what people do with their teeth these days, but maybe dentures, maybe whatever. I don't know, because the teeth just become so decayed from all the stuff. But early warning signs for me was these canker sores, right? I haven't had one in I don't know how long now, and they were so painful before that not having them is great. But that's a personal. And then, on top of that, your stomach, you get duress there and this and that. Things like, for me, canker sores and a messed up stomach, bloating and pain and whatnot, we now categorize this thing as irritable bowel syndrome, right? You have irritable bowel syndrome, or are you eating high quantities of bleach? One or the other. I think that maybe the bleach. I don't have any stomach problems anymore either, which is also unique, right? But we are treating people with diseases with just clean diets. So one of the points of this is to understand that anything can change, and you can change it essentially by just learning what you're putting inside your body. The genome of the body essentially is this code, right, of thousands and thousands of numbers that we are all made up of, and there's a lot of research happening on genomics right now. And it is true that whatever you eat starts to change your genetic makeup. And if we eat too many harmful things, our genetic makeup starts to change. And what we're noticing now is that it's passing on it's generational now. Children are being born now with childhood obesity, right? And it's a sensitive topic, I understand, but someone has to talk about it and put this out there because, uh, you know, if we're gonna help, if we're gonna save, if we're going to make the life better for anybody, then this information has to be out there. But so that is one of the big key points of all this as well, is that. So early warning signs, like I was saying, for me are canker sores and a messed up stomach, but that's telling me that something's not right. And if I hadn't changed it, and if I slip back to it, because it's not impossible, right? There's bad food all over the place. I could walk out the door here at the club and go down the street and find something that would be harmful for my body. If I don't change it, or if I go back to it, I'm at a much higher likelihood of cancers growing in my body, or a disease happening later on in life. So you'll know if you're doing something right, it's probably going to come in the form of weight loss first, right? You'll lose that initial inflammation water to start, and then you'll see some body fat go, and then you'll start to feel better after that. You know, the joints and pain, pain and all that other kind of stuff, that's another interesting topic that we can touch on real quick with nutrition as well. Because pain is your nervous system, just something's not going on right with your nervous system, right? But your joints and your body needs to be properly hydrated. And so if you're on one of those inflammatory diets and all your cells are busy clinging on to every bit of water you're drinking, your joints don't have any fluid, right? They don't have any fluid for cushion. Then things start to degenerate, and that's not good as well. So we can also heal those things with all that. Briefly, let's talk about food addiction and addiction to all this stuff, because it sounds simple, doesn't it? Hey, okay, I can get my joints back, I can get my old clothes size back, I can stop being in pain, I can do it tomorrow. I just change everything, right? Maybe, but what's gonna keep you from doing that? And that's the real kicker here, right? Is a lot of those foods have something that draws you back, and it's a neural addictive pathway, from what my friends in psychology department at UTA say, right? Is just a neural pathway that's been opened that is very, very, very difficult to shut down, or it's become a lifestyle. I was a coffee shop. I will not use any names, but a coffee shop. Well, my friend and I meet there every single Monday morning at 6 a.m. and we have our coffee and we eat our blah, blah, blah. So now that relationship may have been formed around these things, right? That is where it does get tough, as I understand. This is a relationship that I cannot let go. I love that person. They are my friend. But now we've built this food up around it. Being able to step outside of any addiction to food and seeing what it's doing to us is a very unique thing that can happen. I think myself going through that transformation opened my eyes to a lot of different things in life, right? And it gives you almost a different outlook on the world, because you can see how it's developed around that. Now, we may be trying to make a change. I mean, I think out there's some information flying around the internet that's saying, hey, everybody, have a look at this, wake up to this, be cautious, whatever. But we'll see if we can get there, because it is a very big, there's a whole economy built around the food industry as well. Real quick, let's talk about that canola oil that I was just saying and what it does. So the canola oil which is funny because you'll find this little ingredient in so many foods. Canola oil is also called rapeseed oil. It comes from the rapeseed. And canola oil is not the best oil that we should use. And a lot of people have said, okay, yes, good. I use avocado oil, or I use olive oil to cook with now. That's fantastic. You're making the right step in your house. But for instance, for myself, I went to Albertsons. Oh, probably have to edit that one out. And anyway, went to the grocery store, and I had there was it was cashews, right? So it's cashews that the store had packaged themselves. So I thought, well, these must be the best form of cashew that I could possibly ask for. It's all been rolled in canola oil. And when you actually read the ingredients, canola oil is in there, and you're thinking, well, why did they even bother putting canola oil all over these wonderful cashews that could have done so much good for my body, but it's just been doused in it. So canola oil, the bad thing about it is when it's eaten in abundance, it clogs your liver. When your liver is clogged, you cannot process the fat that you eat properly, so the fat will end up storing on your body, and you'll start gaining body fat. So that's one of the downsides. The second downside is a little bit scientific, right? But I'll throw it out there. And I believe it's Jerry Tennant who says this in one of his talks, is that every cell in your body, and there are so many, right, has a cell membrane made up of fat. So first off, if you know that, that's why you can't cut fat out of your diet, because every cell is made up of fat, right? So what canola oil does is it enters your body and enters your system. And because canola oil is somewhat of a plastic type of thing, it'll deteriorate the fat layer around your cell, and it'll replace it with canola oil, which is like a plastic. So essentially, if you eat enough of it, all the cells in your body, the cell membranes, they turn into a plastic instead of a fat membrane. A fat membrane, a good fat membrane, can hold all kinds of energy inside of it, right? So therefore, your body is energetic. A plastic membrane has no ability to store energy. So cells will begin to die because they cannot house energy should you eat too much of that. That's kind of the science definition of canola oil and what it does. I like it the best because I see the picture of it and what it's doing. But so many little things that we can consume could lead to my ability to not have energy for the day, which is why we say eat healthy, have more energy, right? It's the just blanket statement. People follow that and they say, yeah, all right, I'll eat healthier and I'll have more energy. But why? I mean, somebody like me, I'm curious, well, why when I eat this, why was it making me not have energy? Why was it when I eat sugar, I lack in energy too? Sugar's supposed to give me energy, right? Well, sugar in the right quantities and in the right source probably would give you energy. Think about an orange. An orange would probably give you energy. Too many oranges maybe would send you over some threshold. But it's the bleach on sugar that's going to make you feel as if you don't have energy because your body is going to be busy fighting off the bleeding inside that occurs when that enters into your body. That's why you're not going to have energy, right? A body that's rested, is healed, has a healthy cardiovascular system, that's the one that has all the energy, right? The ones that don't. So fairly simple on that. And that's what canola oil will do to your body. So far, just to retouch, we did talk about why some people are going on the ketogenic diet, how it can be used in healing lots of diseases, And then we talked about harmful substances, high fructose corn syrup, white bleached sugar, table sugar, white bleached flour, canola oil. Cut all those out. And you might want to read your packages and see if you can eliminate anything that has an OSE at the end of it, like dextrose. Maltodextrin is one that's hidden and it doesn't end in an OSE. Maltodextrin is another form of sugar that's not good for you either. So be careful for that one. But if you read your package of chicken and it says sucrose on it, why is that there? Right? Find a version of chicken that doesn't have that on it. Prepackaged stuff, frozen things, that might be why those are on there. I actually don't know, but I also know that if a company can, they're going to try to pull you back to their food with something that might be just a little bit addictive to your body, right? So those are some key points. The main thing at the end, I think we'll end with this and then open up to some questions. But I don't like to ignore current science, right? Current science, there's a lot of good science out there. The thing about your basal metabolic rate and eating the calories at or around your basal metabolic rate so you're not overdoing it. That science has been there for a very long time. So I don't want to throw that out the window. I don't want to say, okay, as long as you cut out sugar and carbohydrates, you can eat as much as you want, right? Just because I don't believe that our structures were meant to do that. Plus, you should not just be eating all day anyways. There's plenty of other things that you should do or can do. And don't forget how much energy fat provides you with, right? On your body, I mean, you could take the amount of fat in my wrist here, right? It may even look like skin, just skin, but there is fat in there. And that fat that I just grasped in the two of my fingers, that could probably fuel me for an entire day, right? There are these reality challenges that people do these days where they go into the woods and try to survive for 21 days without, essentially without eating, because they end up thinking that they're, naturists or whatever you want to call it, and they end up not being able to find food, so they end up just starving for 21 days. They don't ever die. The body has so much energy stored on it. The best thing you can do is try to get your body to use up some of this energy, right? It starts with your diet. I would say that feeding in sugars is going to impede your body from using this fat, right? If you eat more proteins and vegetables and things like we've been saying for years and years and years, and healthy fats like avocados and nuts that don't have canola oil on them or sugar, my dad will tell you, I get on him all the time. Plenty of places sell peanuts that have been rolled in sugar and stuff, So as long as your food is natural, you can start undergoing this change. But eat your good fats. And again, the research on everything, the nutrient percentages, it's pretty easy to know how much protein you should eat in a day. And so I will throw that out there real quick. You shouldn't overdo it on protein either, because, protein comes with nitrogen and you don't want an excess of nitrogen in your body either. So your protein requirements for most people, I would say they range between 60 and 120 grams a day, right? This can be found based on your body size. I told somebody the other day, why do we recommend certain amounts of protein, certain grammages of protein based on people's body size? Because based on your body size determines the amount of enzyme availability that you have to break down this protein. So if you don't have enough of the enzyme, you're not going to break it down, and it's going to be excreted, and you're not even going to use it. So what's the purpose, right? But your kilograms and body weight is typically how many grams you should eat. Now, I did say your kilogram body weight, not your pounds, right? Your kilograms body weight is your weight in pounds divided by 2.2. this is a good starting point for anybody as far as how much protein they need. I think my body needs 100, right, or something like that. 100 grams per day. That's always a good starting point, and then you can go carbohydrates and fat after that, while keeping an eye on the overall caloric intake that you're putting in. But be cautious. I am always still cautious of diets that tell you to eliminate an entire group of food. Don't eat carbohydrates. Well, if you are eating vegetables, you are eating carbohydrates. So I guess we have that. I'm a believer in fruit. I think it came from the ground. I think we have to continue to eat fruit on occasion, right? Don't eat mass amounts, but eat some fruit, right? It's good for you. Vitamins and minerals. And carbohydrates have fiber in them. Potatoes, brown rice, vegetables, right? Corn. It's not the worst thing on the planet to eat corn. It's just the quantities. So watch your quantities. That's where we ended up starting today, was watch your quantities. Watch all the harmful things. Watch the toxins that are in there. Know that there are plenty of sources out there to follow. I would recommend getting Dee McCaffrey's book. Dee is a friend of mine. She's very, very nice, and she wrote that book with the best intentions for people. It's just, you can take your bodybuilding diet or your yoga diet or whatever your diet plan is supposed to be for, and you can implement what she puts in there, because Dee is about to be a dietitian. I think she went back to school from being a genius chemist to now I care about nutrition for people because I'm writing about it. But chemistry is probably where all this whole thing starts, right? So she makes great prescriptions, and she doesn't necessarily tell you what to eat, but what not to eat. And I always find that I'm safe that way too. If I tell people what not to eat, I'm not stepping over any boundaries that a dietitian would slap me on the wrist for. Because once again, and I think it's got to be simple for people, right? You can't say, hey, eat good carbohydrates, because I just don't know if people are looking. So you say, don't eat any of the starchy carbohydrates, whatever you want to call them. Some people just don't know where to find that. So in turn, you just cut all of it out, right? But before you cut it all out, or as you're doing it, I'd encourage you to see if you're having proper energy, or if you're not, something negative happens to the way you feel. That's being a scientific type of thinker. And so when you go to implement something new, make sure you're a scientific thinker. If you eat a lot of sugar and you're going to cut it out, be prepared. There's probably going to be some withdrawal symptoms. That's another thing that, you tell people, hey, stop drinking coffee. Woo boy, it gets hairy, right? Mood swings, anger, right? Same thing happens with sugar, because it is somewhat addictive to your body. And when your body doesn't have something it's addicted to, it might, present you as something negative. So, again, my name is Stephen Newhart, and I own Vigor Active, which is a fitness center in downtown. And over the years, we're going to brand ourselves as more of a medical look on fitness, but it is all natural, right? Our medical look is exercise and proper nutrition, our medicine. They heal people from diseases and early death. And that's what we'll do here. And, just a little other background. I've been an adjunct professor at the University of Texas at Arlington for many years. I love it. It always raises great questions, thoughts. I'm about to finish my PhD. So lots of fun stuff. I'd like to